Thank you, Whittaker. That was Whittaker Locke, our talented pianist, sharing with us this morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Columbus, an inclusive religious community of people supporting each other in the search for truth and meaning. I'm Rick Spradlin, your service leader. The chalice is the symbol of Unitarian Universalism. It speaks to us of reason, tolerance, and freedom, and also of compassion, respect, and love. May its flame ever warm and illuminate our lives. One of the ways we proclaim the vitality of our fellowship is through sharing brief and personal joys and concerns. I'll start by lighting a candle for the unspoken fears or concerns we may be feeling these days. Kathy Rankin has tested positive for COVID-19, so let's light a candle and let's keep Kathy in our thoughts and prayers. Also, a friend of Ron and Connie Ussery, Matt Hamilton, has been diagnosed with stage 4 mouth and throat cancer. A GoFundMe page has been started and will be added to our Facebook group. Let's keep Matt in our thoughts and prayers. And finally, a joy. Sophie will begin starting her piano lessons from Whittaker this week. So good luck to Sophie. I'm sure she'll have fun. If you have any joys or concerns and you'd like to be shared, just please email those to our President, Hal Majette, or to our Office Administrator, Brenda Stevens, at uufcga@gmail.com. And now let us once again affirm the 7 principles which sum up the core values that Unitarian Universalist congregations support and promote. Number 1, the inherent worth and dignity of every person. 2, justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. 3, the acceptance of one another and the encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregations. 4, the free and responsible search for truth and meaning. 5, the right of conscience and the use of the democratic process in our congregations and in society at large. 6, the goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. And 7, respect for the interdependent web of all existence, of which we are a part. And now for a celebration of life toast. If you have something to drink already, you can use that, or just toast in spirit. We celebrate life. We celebrate life with its beauty and its pain. We lift these cups in tribute to the achievements of human minds and hands and in sensitivity to the frustrations of misfortune and heartache. Not fixing blame or credit for the outcome of chance, sensing the risk, savoring the joy, sharing it all. Knowing of the certainty of death and remembering the value of each moment, we drink our toast of celebration to this time, to the future, to each other, to the throbbing of the earth and sea and sky with life. Together, we drink this toast in celebration of life. And now for our offering. If you'd like to contribute, you can mail your contribution to UU Fellowship of Columbus, Box 698, Fortson, Georgia, 31808. We have a PayPal account set up as well.
A quick word about this piece. I've actually wanted to perform this as an offertory for a while, and I've always been reluctant to do so, mainly because of the difficulty level. Not to say I'm 100% ready to do it today, but I'm going to do it anyway. Because it really captures the dichotomy of gentleness and anger that has been heavy on my mind for a while now. And it's also a very beautiful piece. I first heard this piece about, well, almost exactly 7 years ago. And it was played at that time by a 9-year-old girl. And I remember thinking I'd never be able to play it. And it wasn't until last year that I started studying it. And it's come a long way. Not perfect, but I've just been moved to perform it today. This is Chopin's Fantasy Impromptu.
Thank you, Whittaker. And I believe Sophie will be playing that next week, right? No, okay. Solitude and solidarity. Balancing the needs of the individual with the needs of society. The Jewish Torah, Leviticus chapter 19, verse 18, teaches us to love our neighbors as ourselves. In the Babylonian Talmud, Hillel the elders summarized the Torah by saying, "What is hateful to you, do not do to your fellow." This is the whole Torah. The rest is commentary. And Jesus, in Matthew chapter 7 and Luke chapter 6, said, "Do unto others as you would have others do unto you." Would you be willing to give up your individual rights for the sake of the common good? During this coronavirus pandemic, that's the very question that we're faced with. We had to close down our in-person services to help prevent the spread of the virus. Many of us haven't been to work in months. Some of us order our food and groceries online to be delivered. We haven't shaken hands or hugged anyone outside of our families since all this started. We've basically put ourselves in solitary confinement. Now, solitary confinement is used in prison as a punishment. Human beings have evolved as social animals. We need social interaction. The individual needs the group. But sometimes the group needs us to put aside the needs of the individual for the good of the group as a whole. There's a recent philosophical term coined in the 20th century called communitarianism. Communitarianism emphasizes the connection between the individual and the community. Its overriding philosophy is based on the belief that a person's social identity and personality are largely molded by community relationships, with a smaller degree of development being placed on individualism. It opposes the classical liberal belief that individuals come together and form communities, and replaces it with the realization that no one person actually comes into the world as an individual. The community brings about our creation. It takes two people to cause the birth of one. It takes the community as a whole to nurture the thoughts and opinions, biases, and loyalties that the individual will later claim as his own. Yes, we have individual thoughts and opinions, but those thoughts are usually formed by taking bits and pieces of what we have learned from others and filter them through what we think we understand others to have said. We use the bias of our experiences to teach us how to decide what views from others we will agree with and what views we will reject. I think of some of my friends from high school who graduated with no purpose or direction, who had no idea what to do with their lives. Many of them joined the military. Their decision to enlist had less to do with patriotism and more to do with simply seeing no other option. Today, some of them will rant and rave about their rights as individuals being trampled on by a draconian state government that requires the wearing of a mask in public. But they will also talk for hours about the life lessons they learned serving their country through military service, about how the military gave them purpose, something bigger than the self. They use expressions such as "there is no I in team" and "never leave a man behind." They know that we are stronger when we put our individualism aside and work for the common good. As is often the case, we need to find balance. In 2014, in his book, The New Normal, communitarian philosopher Amity Attisoni argued that societies need to find a way to balance individual rights with the common good. Writing about societal changes as a result of the 9/11 terrorist attacks, Attisoni wrote that some believe the United States may have unduly shortchanged individual rights that need to be better protected. Specifically, should the press be granted more protection? Or should its ability to publish state secrets be limited? Should surveillance of Americans and others be curtailed? Should American terrorists be treated differently from others? Attisoni implements the social philosophy liberal communitarianism. Its key assumptions are that neither individual rights nor the common good should be treated as privilege, but both are core values, and that a balance is needed between them. He argues that we need to find a new balance between our desire for more goods, services, and affluence, particularly because economic growth may continue to be slow and jobs anemic. The key question is what makes a good life, especially for those whose basic needs are not met. Some people have thought that communitarianism resembles conservatism in its focus on the need for greater individual responsibility toward the community, and in its critique of the excesses of rights-oriented society. In fact, communitarians really seek to establish a new golden rule, one that seeks the balance between the still valued needs of individuals and the larger society. If we were living in a totalitarian society, that golden rule would lead us to become dissenters. We would insist on greater individual liberty. In Western democratic societies, where the pendulum has shifted towards extremes of individual self-indulgence and a lack of community responsibility, communitarianism criticizes the overuse of individualism to find balance. Yes, we Americans have individual rights, but we also call ourselves the United States. E pluribus unum, out of many, one. Whatever the reason, we need to remind ourselves of the advantages of cooperation, and that our individual success will not be very satisfying if the larger community we live in isn't doing well. What we as individuals need to cultivate could be called enlightened self-interest, or cooperative competition, or just sensible altruism. Whatever it is called, groups composed of members who balance individual and group needs function better. Thank you for listening. And now, before we extinguish the chalice, I hope that each of you stays safe and healthy until we meet again. We extinguish the chalice here that it might glow gently in our hearts as we leave this place. And now for our closing words, if you'll please join me in spirit. With unity of spirit, we go our ways in universal fellowship until we meet again. And now Whittaker will close us out with, "We'll build a land." So long.